Australia is taking in 860 Palestinian refugees. This is a lovely gesture by the federal government. But my only question is, why do they have to go halfway around the world for a visa and they can't go into one of their neighbouring countries? Countries that have similar value systems, the same religion. It just seems that it would be a much easier transition for these people from Gaza than going all the way to the other side of the world. So why aren't they taking them? Do they know something that we don't? Australia.
Why is it your only question? Why don't you also ask the question, why is it that Australia is donating millions of your hard-earned tax dollars to Israel when other neighbouring countries who share the same values as Israel should donate the money instead? Why all the way in Australia, where you have nothing to do with the Middle East, you don't have a single problem in donating your hard-earned taxpayer dollars to Israel? Why don't you complain there? On a similar note, why is it that out of all of these other countries that share the Jewish-Israeli values, why did the European countries decide to dump all the Jews, gather them from all over Europe and dump them to the Middle East? Why did they do that? Obviously, the Middle East doesn't share the same values of the Jews. Why then take all the Jews from all over Europe and dump them into the Middle East, where their values are contrary to the values of the Arabs? I mean, you could have given them one of your state in Australia. If you were living in America, you could have given them a state called Florida. Everyone keeps saying Florida is shit. So why don't you give Florida to the Jews and they'll make it such a great democracy? I mean, they share similar values to the Americans. Americans love Israel. They support and love and unconditionally support Israel. So why didn't you give them one of your states and instead you made them live in the Middle East and give them the Middle East? These jackholes support Israel unconditionally, bombing and killing discriminately and destroying so many families, where these families have to flee and they're exiled. And then they conveniently blame other neighbouring countries why they're not taking these refugees for the crimes committed by the Westerners, for the support, for the unconditional barbarism and the killing, where these people are mutilated by the weapons that the West supply. And then they want neighbouring Muslim countries to actually take the burden of these refugees. Your unconditional support of Israel and that tyrannical government actually besieged Gaza, driving people out of their homes so they no longer can return, bombing indiscriminately all of their civilization and all of their housing, and they promise that they will not build it, so these people can't even return back to their homes, which you support. You supported that massacre where they all had to move south, and then you complain why other Muslim nations or neighboring countries don't take the burden that you created. Because of your support of this indiscriminate bombing where you destroyed everything, all the buildings. You didn't do special operations. You chose to flatten everything. And then people have been driven out of their homes, told to go south, exiled from their homelands. And then after this, you have the audacity to say, why are they coming to Australia?